I feel the Spirit moving in me. I feel the Spirit moving in me.
Good morning. Nice to see you. It's great to be here. I discovered the story about Jim McLaren this week. He was a 300-pound, 6'5" All-American football player. He was a Yale student and an aspiring actor. And Jim's life nearly ended when he was hit by a 40,000-pound bus in his early 20s. With a prosthetic leg, he became the top amputee athlete in the world in 1993. His athletic career came to a cruel halt when he was struck by a van when he was in a triathlon. He was declared a quadriplegic. He says that his deepest fear was spending his life in solitude and stillness. He said, I was afraid of being alone with myself. A drug dealer selling Jim cocaine told him, after all you've been through, you deserve this. And he said, I deserve this. He became addicted to cocaine. One night, in the midst of his suffering, he yelled at the sky, why are you doing this to me? And he knew in that moment that he had to change his life, that he had to either decide to live or decide to die. He said, maybe it wasn't a curse at all. Maybe it was the most exquisite blessing in my life, the opportunity to see my true self. Jim realized that by exploring his suffering, he could discover his true self. He began to help others with their tragedies and share his experiences and his wisdom with others. And he helped countless people to transform their lives and find honesty and find peace and to find themselves. Thich Nhat Hanh wrote, when we know the art of how to suffer, we suffer much less. We can use the mud of our suffering to grow lotuses of love and understanding. In the face of suffering, I face my suffering with love and understanding. And I experience honesty, happiness, and peace. Anybody familiar with the Gospel of Thomas? It's a unique gospel, and there's many more, of course, than were canonized and put in the Bible. And the Gospel of Thomas is unique in that it's not a bunch of stories like the other Gospels. It's actually a conglomeration of phrases and sayings that Jesus said. Such an incredibly powerful book and so much truth. And some of the stuff will blow your mind. Like this. Jesus wrote in the Gospel of Thomas, when you know how to suffer, you do not suffer. Wow. And that's the title of our talk today and the theme of what we're talking about. Jim learned how to embrace his suffering and was able to transform it, to rise above it, and discover the truth of who he was. He discovered his passion. He discovered how he could help others to make transformations in their own lives by talking with them and sharing with them and loving them and holding them and affirming them and being with them. It's been said that ignorance is the root of suffering. But we're not talking about ignorance in an ordinary way. We're talking about ignorance in the way of not understanding how suffering can transform us, how we can look at the things in our lives where we have suffered, where we are suffering, and embrace them and hold them and love that part of ourselves. You know, ignorance is simply forgetting who we are. And part of that ignorance is forgetting that we're the presence of God, that we are the light of the world, that we are the essence of truth, that we have that power within us to transform the places where we've been hurt so we can express our fullness, our potential. Sometimes we forget in that ignorance that we are expressions of the divine. You are a perfect expression of the divine. Finding that divine within yourself, exploring it, expressing it, being it. Isn't that great? Isn't that so amazing? Wow, what a thing for us to realize. We're not lowly sinners, God forbid. We are perfect expressions of God. I think people kept that from us because they wanted to keep us small, right? The people who wrote this stuff down did it because they didn't want to empower people around them. They wanted to have control over them. And this is what Jesus taught. This is what the Buddha taught. This is what so many teachers who had access to that truth taught to remind us, to remind you of who you are. Wow. What a beautiful thing. How amazing is that we have that connection. We have the presence of God within us and access to it when we open ourselves to experience it. Wow. However, handling suffering is an art. And then we're going to talk about that today, about how we can do that. How can we be with it? How can we, water, how can we take this mud, right? That it feels like we're in sometimes, and out of that mud grow into a beautiful lotus. You know, no matter what the world tells us, that our internal story of what is occurring has to do with being victimized. A lot of us believe on some level that we've been victimized, that somebody's hurt us. Somebody took advantage of us. Somebody took something away from us. So many people tell themselves the story that I'm a victim. Jim felt like he was a victim until he was able to be with his suffering enough to transform it, and out of it grow the love and the power and the wisdom of who he is. You know, all of us have some ancient story about how we've been wronged, how God has wronged us, how circumstances have wronged us, how we have wronged ourselves. And all of us, at some level, have a story in there about being a victim. And so what we're going to look at today is how can we transform that? Let's get out of that. Let's stop that. Let's remember the truth of who we are. That we are perfect expressions of God, right? We're expressions of God having a human experience, and some of that human experience is that lack thinking, that feeling sometimes that we're a victim, and we get to get over that because it's not the truth. It was an experience that we went through. It was a belief that we had, but it's time to let that go. When you know how to suffer, you do not suffer. When we are with the places that we suffer and we're with them, right? Instead of pushing them away, a lot of people will tell you that what I'm telling you is a bunch of bullshit, right? Because some people want you to believe that you've suffered because they want to control you, right? But that's not who you are. You are a perfect expression of God. Come into this realm to be that person and to inspire others, as Jim did, to be the best that they can be. You know, we know that suffering is uncomfortable. And some people would tell us that we should try to repress it, right? Because that's how we're taught as children to deal with pain. Just push it away. Just push it. Don't deal with it. Just push it away. It'll be okay. Let mama kiss it. Let me put a Band-Aid on it, right? You don't want to see it, right? So we're taught to just push pain away instead of being with it, exploring it, embracing it, loving it. Some people believe that if we pay attention to our suffering, it will increase. Again, I say, bullshit, right? That is metaphysical malpractice, right? And that used to be where we stood in New Thought, was to, just push it away, just be all sweet and lovely, and everything is great. Right? I've never played violin. How'd that go, Robin? Was that all right? Yeah. You were suffering when I'm playing the violin. Oh my God. Enough of the suffering. I'll stop playing the violin. That's simply not true. What we resist does what? It persists. If we resist and don't face the hurt that we have, it's going to persist, right? If we push things away, it's going to bubble up in some place, in some way. Why not just deal with it, love it, be with it, and let it go? Take a breath. Can you feel the power in that? Wow. No mud, no lotus. Wow. You know, suffering is impermanent if we nurture it, if we say hello to it, if we embrace it. It's like, it's just to hold that. We're still all kind of children inside, right? And we have these feelings, right? And we hurt sometimes, right? And when we would hurt, what would our mothers do? Kiss it. Hold us and say, it's okay. It's really okay. Imagine if we could do that to the places that hurt inside ourselves. Just to love them. It's like what's hurt is that childlike essence within us. And we can just love it and say, it's okay. It's okay. And just doing that, nurturing it, transforms it. Rather than pushing it away and saying, I don't see you, you don't exist, you're not really here, right? No mud, no lotus. Suffering is a kind of mud that's here to help us to expand into a beautiful lotus flower of happiness. There can be no lotus without mud. Damn, I hate that, right? I'm cussing a lot in this talk. I don't know. The censors are all over it. I can see the people out in Facebook land, they're like, oh, God forbid. Don't play the violin some more rather than cuss. Well, this is a tough crowd I have here. You guys are lucky you're sitting home on your couch because you don't have to, deal with the suffering that I have to deal with. Somebody said, you have to deal with. Look what we have to deal with. So what does our suffering look like? Oftentimes it looks like sorrow. It looks like anger. It looks like fear. It might look like a grudge that we're holding against somebody that we've refused to forgive. It might look like unforgiveness towards ourselves. Anybody have anything in your past that comes up once in a while and reminds you of what a turkey you were? Right? See, I used a word without cussing that time. I'm growing, I'm expanding, I'm learning. So, and oftentimes we forget to forgive other people, and many times we forget to give ourselves for the things that we have done, and to forgive others for even the things that we perceive that were done to us by them, which a lot of them aren't even true. But we carry this stuff around, and it becomes like a heaviness that keeps us from being our powerful self. There was a part of Jim who was angry at the world for what happened to him, for being hit by a bus, by being hit by a van, right? And he carried that anger around for a long time and got into things that he thought would make him feel better and to avoid that. He got into cocaine and drugs. And we too can get into avoidance and refusing to look at the things that hurt us. But this is where we change that mud into a lotus. So we're going to go through a little process this morning. Did everybody get a paper and a pen or pencil? You might want to take that out. And so we're going to go through a process, and ask you not to start writing this out yet, because I'm going to tell you a little bit about it first. Did everybody get it? Anybody didn't get it? I guess that's probably a better question. Okay. And if you're at home watching, you might want to get a piece of paper and a pencil. And so I'll tell you the first question so those of you watching can write it down. So I'm going to ask you, or I am asking you, are you experiencing any pain in your life? Any place that's hurting? Are you aware that you may be pushing something down, not feeling something, not being your full self? And if you are, I just invite you to kind of be aware of it. And you might even look at, where does it hurt? Where can you feel the heaviness? And I know for myself, I often feel it right here. It feels like a weight or something that's solid and hard and holding me back. And so what does it feel like? Where can you feel it? And are you willing to transform it? So some people might say, Rev, I don't have any pain anywhere. I don't have any resentment. I don't have anything that I'm holding on to. Nothing has got me stuck. So to that I would say, I don't think you're looking deep enough. Because I think that all of us have something that we're carrying around with us. And this may not be the time for you to let it go. And you get to choose that. And in my experience, what we don't let go of shows up in another flower bed somewhere else. So we're going to do a mindfulness exercise. I'm going to take you through 2 short guided reflections. It's not a full-on meditation. We're just going to go to this place of being reflective and just spend a moment or two there with each of these 2 questions. And then we'll do a meditation afterwards. So I just invite you to take a breath, to go inside. And to ask yourself, are you feeling stuck? Or is there a place within you that's holding you back from being your true self? And can you get a sense for some way that you might be suffering? Maybe you're holding on to some anger or some sorrow or some grief, holding a grudge against someone or yourself, not forgiving yourself for something. And just to kind of, what does that feel like? Can you relate to the heaviness of that? And if so, you might even imagine that you can hold it like a baby. Hold it in your hands and just love it without judgment. And then realizing that this is some mud that you get to work through. Are you willing to transform it? Are you willing to nurture it and to allow the lotus to appear? And loving yourself and knowing that you are held by the love of this community, by all of us in this room, that we are embraced in a field of love. And now I invite you to begin to bring your awareness back to this moment and to write down the answers for yourself to the first question. Just to say, yeah, there is something there. Yes, I can feel something. Maybe it's in my stomach, it's in my chest, it's in my head. And maybe you're not even aware of it. Are you willing to transform it? Maybe you don't even, if you don't have an idea what it is fully. Because it may show up tomorrow or this week. But I know when we ask our divine self for understanding, for guidance, it comes. And now we'll move on to the second question, which I will follow again with a reflection. So I invite you maybe not to write your answer right away, but to do so after we reflect on it. So what is a belief or an idea or a thought that you have that's keeping you from being your full self, your divine self? What is stopping you from being your true self? Maybe it's a thought of being unworthy or not good enough or not smart enough or not able physically or mentally, emotionally. What is keeping you from being your true self? What is keeping you from being happy? Really happy? Amazingly happy? Are you holding on to anger or fear Are you holding on to a belief that doesn't serve you anymore? Do you need to forgive yourself or someone else? What do you need to be safe in the halls of your mind? Now let's just rest for a moment and be receptive as we reflect. Breathing in. And breathing out and relaxing and knowing that you are safe. That the presence of divine love is moving as you, in you, empowering you, embracing you, loving you. Embracing the mud takes courage. Breathing in and breathing out. I invite you to return to this moment and to open your eyes and to write any thoughts or feelings or reflections. Mindfulness practices give us the strength to look deeply and give rise to understanding and compassion. And when you're ready, I invite you to close your eyes. And I'll know that you're done writing, and we can go into this mindfulness meditation. Breathing in and breathing out. I invite you to become aware of the presence of the divine within you. And breathe into that place around your heart to allow the love that is the essence of who you are to expand and to touch you in every space, every tissue, every thought, every feeling. Breathing in and breathing out. In mindfulness, we learn to accept the mud in ourselves, remembering that the mud helps us grow. And you might remember a time when you were hurting, when you were suffering. Maybe you were wronged or mistreated or suffered in some way. You might even have suffered because you haven't experienced the happiness in your life that you would like to experience. And just think of this as mud in your life. And imagine that you can behold this place within you, perhaps it's like a child, this part of you that's been hurt. And to hold it with gentleness and compassion. And as you breathe in, you can say to this child, you can say to this pain, to this suffering, hello, my pain. I know that you are there. And breathe in, hello, my pain. I know that you are there. And breathing slowly and exhaling to say, I will take care of you. You do not need to be afraid. Breathing in, hello, my pain. I know you are there. And as you breathe out, I will take care of you. You don't need to be afraid. Within the breath is the energy of transformation, the energy of healing, the energy of compassion. And as we breathe with gentleness and compassion, we embrace this hurt, loving it like a mother might embrace her child. The mother is the mindfulness. The crying baby is the suffering. When the baby is embraced by the mother, it feels comforted and immediately suffers less. Breathing in and breathing out. I will take care of you. You do not need to be afraid. Breathing in, breathing out. Right in this moment, transformation is taking place. Breathing, loving, having compassion for yourself, compassion for all of us. I invite you to begin to bring your awareness back to this moment. And slowly and gently to open your eyes when you're ready. And to know that you are free. When we know how to handle and embrace our suffering with compassion, we then can know how to be with others when they're suffering, when they're hurting. Often we ask, how can I be with someone when they're hurting? Oftentimes, the best way is just to be there. You don't have to say anything, but to hold this person in the same way you just held yourself, with love. When we sit next to someone that's hurting, they can feel the energy of our love and our compassion and the way that we care. I believe that on this path that we're on of spiritual transformation, that in some way, I think you would agree that you're here to serve the world. Yes? We're here, I believe, those of us who are attracted to these teachings do so because we want to transform ourselves, and we want to be an agent of transformation, of love and compassion for others, to transform this world, to help the world to suffer less. And we can do that by being peaceful, by being compassionate. When we have the peace within us, we can share it with the world because we've reduced our suffering and we can be present for the world. Thich Nhat Hanh said, when we are able to transform our suffering, we do so not only for ourselves, but also for our ancestors, for our descendants, and for the world. I'm reading a book of his right now, and in the book he says that, we are on this journey of healing. And he says that we can actually transform our parents. We can transform our ancestors. We can transform the world by being compassionate players, spirits, lovers in the world. Peace, compassion, and well-being begin with ourselves. When we can reconcile with ourselves and embrace and transform our suffering, we also care for the world. And we can do the same for the world. Say this affirmation with me. I face my suffering with love and understanding, and I experience honesty, happiness, and peace. And so it is.
It's my
It's your turn, yes. And tell us about this song.
I will. Sorry. Hi, guys. Thank you, Reverend Blaine. I'm going to change the energy just a little bit. I wrote a song about a turtle. And this was not these recent big storms we had, but a year or two ago there was, I don't know, some days of wind and rain and, lightning, thunder, whatever. And the sun came out and I took a walk down on Halama Park along the rocks there. And I just noticed all the turtles. It was like the churned up ocean kicked. See if I don't know if the metaphor works or not, but I think it kind of does. It was like the chaos that happened when things calmed down. There was all this wonderful algae, and the turtles knew it. And they were just, 20 of them, 50 of them, just lined up, munching away. It was a cool experience. Okay. Trying to get the island vibe going. You can help me by kind of doing this, right? Balmy breezes became powerful trades, and that's strange in our leeward town. The swells were swell, but the waves and trash turned that gorgeous azure brown. Wind and rain and churning surf shook that algae from the stone. But there's treasures from the watery hold. Sometimes a storm in the night. Some treasures to the light. Mama Turtle whispers to me. She says, "Hey girl, you better eat your greens. Come on, slow down, honey. What's the rush? Whoa. A nap's the most important thing." Thank you, sometimes a storm in the night. Can bring the treasures to light. Can bring the treasure to the light.
Thank you, Robin. Alrighty then. Thank you again, Robin Fisher. Beautiful music. A song about a turtle, and she was willing to sing it toward us. Tortoise. Yeah. Okay. There's a Bible story most of you probably heard where they were trying to trip Jesus up on stuff. So they asked him, "Should we pay taxes?" And he said, whose face is on that coin? Oh, Caesar. And nowadays it would be the same thing if they asked him, who's on that dollar bill? Washington. Okay, so that's an arrangement you have with Washington. So render unto Washington what's Washington's, but render unto God what is God's. And I think he was trying to preach us about value. I'm still trying to grasp all of that because I don't claim to be an expert with money by any sense. But I do believe that our value is something so far beyond those little pieces of green paper. And that's an agreement that we've made with each other, that those are symbols of exchange of value. But again, our value, your value, this church's value is all way beyond that. It's the love that's in our hearts, the connection, it's what we do. But to grease the wheels, to keep us going here, that is one necessary part, is to have some of those little green pieces of paper, along with the help of all the volunteers. And I'm only beginning to learn their names. I know Emily's doing the video for us. Mike is helping us out today on the audio. Of course, Reverend Blaine here every week. And I see Jason early in the morning up there cleaning up outside for us, so it's a nice place to come to. Brad? Okay, so all right, let's see how good I am with the names. But what's in a name? Brad by any other name. Okay, so that's people that give their value, and if this has value to you, we invite you to share some of it. That's all it is. No pressure, no obligation. It's just that this is a beautiful thing that happens for us, and if you feel it has value in it and you want to keep it going, then we appreciate what you give us of those magic pieces of green paper that make it all happen. And if you're at home, you can go to our website. We've got easy PayPal links. If you're old school and still write checks, we'll accept a check. You can mail it to us. We're good with that too. So whatever form you're doing it, go ahead and take what you want to give, what you want to donate to support this ministry, and hold it in your hand and connect with that source as we say together, through a grateful, giving heart, my mind and life overflow with an abundance of God's all-providing, infinite supply. And so it is. And how beautiful it is that we have an infinite supply and we know exactly what is ours to share. So the baskets are going to be going around. Flowers, okay, you're always welcome to donate some flowers for Sunday morning, and then you can take them home afterwards. And you can even make them a tribute to someone. You can donate it in their name or memory or whatever you like. We didn't officially have that today, but Emily whipped us up some beautiful flowers anyway, so we would have them up here. So thank you. And we have a compassion team that reaches out to the community, visiting people, bringing flowers, providing rides, offering friendship and healing and whatever's needed. And we could be a light in someone's day. So if you're interested in joining the team, you can talk to Joy or Kailani. And if you need help with anything, you can see that team. Did you want to say something? Okay, all right. The compassion team's meeting right after service. So great time to... All right, great time to, short meeting, she says. Great time to find out if that is your place to give where it feels good. And then we have our Get Found social activities. I know we had some gongs here, I believe, yesterday. Anything on the schedule yet, Mike, or... Not yet. Okay. So Mike usually whips together a thing or two. Usually one's out there in the wilds of the country somewhere, and almost everybody comes back from that. And as far as I know, yeah, we've got a pretty good track record so far. And sometimes we have something here like a game night, or I have a fantasy of a TV night, so maybe we'll get something going on that. Well, there's a movie you all should see called Tomorrowland. And if you haven't seen it yet, it's out there. You probably have to buy it on Amazon Prime. I got lucky and bought it when it was on a discount, so maybe I'll show it sometime. But it's a really interesting movie about which wolf you feed and what the thoughts in our mind create. And that's kind of what Reverend Blaine's going to be talking about next week, is that natural inclination in our heart to do good, to be a force of good in the world, to shine a light. You might remember that commercial a few years ago where somebody like opened a door for somebody and they were in a crabby mood and the person smiled at them. So they were like, oh, well, that person smiled at me. And then they went and they smiled at a person, then that person smiled at the next person, that person held the door open. So, and it spread. So every little choice that we make is the way that we shine our light in the world. And being a force of good means everything the soul calls to carry. This is called a cold read. I read through it once, but not enough. I should learn my lines. Being a force of good means answering the soul's call to carry the divine light and shine it everywhere. We all have the divine light within us, and when we choose to share it, we leave a positive imprint on the world. We have many opportunities daily to shine the light, and we can put it into practice at the grocery store with our families as we build our inspirational and compassionate muscles. So next week, Reverend Blaine's talk is titled The Desire to Inspire, and we'll explore how being a force of good in the world is saying yes to what's in your heart very easily, no effort, no pain, no struggle, honoring my core values and living my truth. And being a force of good in the world is opening my heart in every situation. So join us next Sunday, the 12th, 10 a.m., and we can learn to be happy by spreading happiness. Who's not in for that, right? And we also like you to have a copy of the talk. If it's meaningful for you, please grab a copy. They're on the back table there. There should be the bullet points and the script from the last several weeks. So if you want to take one of those home to have it for further reference, that's right up there at the back table. Okay. So I think we're ready to, did I cover everything? All right. Let's say that prayer for protection, even though we know we're totally protected and awesome. And then we'll sing our final song. So, the light of God surrounds us. The love of God enfolds us. The power of God protects us. The presence of God watches over us. Wherever we are, God is.
Where I